So let's land. If you're going to land, you've got to land your lunar lander. And this is controlled from the right-hand side here. The triangular window features quite frequently in the lunar lander. Bear in mind one thing. It had never, ever been tested. They'd done their research vehicle here on Earth, but gravity on the moon is a lot less. They had not landed unmanned. They hadn't tested anything on the moon. This was the first landing that Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin on Apollo 11 would attempt. Buzz Aldrin, by the way, couldn't land this thing. He hadn't been trained on it. So it all depended on Armstrong. Here he is on the right, and Buzz Aldrin back on the left. You may recall the famous video of them landing when you hear a voice which is reading off various numbers. The voice you hear is Buzz Aldrin. Armstrong's got his hands full trying to land this craft. But he couldn't see kicking up some dust was one of those phrases in that commentary. He couldn't see where he was going. Dust will feature later. But they got the right stuff, these guys. They can land it. And they obviously did, because here he is getting out. This is Buzz Aldrin. Armstrong's already done his one small step, one giant leap and all that. Great piece of script writing, that. And here he is coming out. This is Buzz Aldrin clambering out of the Eagle. This was the lander. And he's on his front now. So he's not wearing a camera, obviously. So you've got to pick that up later. The film of them of Neil Armstrong coming down was taken by a cine camera, a video camera, which is just on the right-hand side of the lander, just there. So down he comes. Oh, boring. So Buzz Aldrin's still getting down the ladder, by the way. Neil Armstrong decided, no, you're going to take a photograph of the rubbish bag, which is what that is, that white thing there. And he's going to have a look then at the foot, make sure it wasn't damaged. So quite what he could have done if it was damaged, nobody's ever explained. So anyway, don't forget Buzz Aldrin's still coming down the ladder. Here he comes. Now, isn't this a wonderful picture? Because you don't need a caption, you don't need me to tell you this is man on the moon. It's Mickey Mouse at his best. Think of it. Have you ever come down a ladder like that? Kick your left foot out. You can't see where the rungs are. You're wearing a spacesuit, and the angle from where he can see it is not visible, the top there. His right foot is not even on the rung. So he's moving, albeit slowly, but the photograph is not blurred in any way at all. Never mind, down he comes, very well illuminated. It's all in shadow, by the way, this side of the lander. And he gets a bit further down, beautifully illuminated, all very well photographed, no viewfinder. Down at the bottom, yeah, here he goes, wow, he's made it. Good for him. Those are the 8 photographs. It took them 3 minutes on the timeline. Not a problem to take 8 photographs in 3 minutes. It's a bit more of a problem if you have to set the focus and the aperture and the shutter speed without a viewfinder, wearing heavy-duty gardening gloves or armored gauntlets. That is what I challenge. Photographic practice would be to bracket the images if you're not sure of the exposure and you can't get back easily, but no, they didn't do that. It's also to take lots and lots of pictures. Film is the cheapest thing you can have on the moon. Didn't take very much. You can go onto a website now, this is the NASA website, and you can see every single picture they allegedly took on the moon. Now, we have another iconic photograph, footprints on the moon. Think about this for a minute. You're wearing a camera on your chest, and you've got to take a picture of your foot. So you've got to take the camera off the chest, point it at your foot, hope you get the angle right, because you've got no viewfinder, hope you get the exposure right, because it's quite different from what you just photographed, and photograph it and get the focus absolutely spot on once. No, forget it. It's not going to happen. No photographer would say, yeah, I can do it once with no viewfinder and all those restrictions. right, we're going to salute the flag. Important to salute the flag. Fair enough. We came in peace for all mankind. And if there had been an accident on the moon, President Nixon, who was president at the time, had a speech which would say something like, they went in peace for all mankind and they will rest on the moon in all eternity. Beautifully done. They didn't have to use it. What's this? What's this? What's this footprint? It's the one-legged astronaut. Because there is no footprint either side of it. I don't know what it is. It's an anomaly. Right, 2 astronauts on the lunar surface at the same time. That's fine. There's another photograph where it's not. But why is the sun angle so different? Why are their shadow lengths so different? We're the same height. Anomaly. Unexplained detail. Buzz Aldrin. It appears to be, you're looking down onto him when the camera is supposed to be at chest level. Oh, man on the moon. Wonderful. This is Buzz Aldrin. And you ever seen a photograph of Neil Armstrong on the lunar surface? No, I thought not. There is only one that's been identified, and it took 20 years to identify it. Right. The picture on the right is what you normally expect to see, with a bit of black above it. The one on the left is the original picture, we're told. It gets manipulated all the time. The one on the right is a manipulated image, because it balances better. There's dear Neil. That's Neil Armstrong, we're told. Remember the flag that was being saluted a few images back? It's in a completely different position now. It's almost below the horizon. In the previous picture, it was almost above the horizon. The camera is at a higher position. It's looking down on him. This is what's so weird. Now, there's something else. Then suddenly you get these things. 2 little silvery, it's almost like a lady's evening handbag. I didn't know they were having parties on the moon, but obviously they were. Where was the dust that was supposed to be in the pads? Kicking up some dust, remember that was part of the phrase? Dust on the moon, assuming this is the moon, dust on the moon has remarkable properties. It will not attach to anything from Earth, and it will always return to the position in which it was before it was disturbed. You can buy lunar material, by the way. It's $30 a kilo. There are companies that will sell you that. Okay, still on Apollo 12. Oh, look, that's where we were. That's planet Earth. How did they photograph it? Nobody knows who took these photographs. It was either Armstrong or Aldrin, but neither of them would own up to it because of the problem you'd have in actually doing it. I can't bend back that far. This is a manipulated image. As is this. Look at the horizon, look at the flags. Foreground is the alleged astronaut, or shadow of alleged astronaut. The horizon should not vary by that amount, given that he hasn't moved that much closer to the lander. Here are heroes on their way to the moon. It's actually, the top one is Aldrin, bottom one is Armstrong. They are taken during the simulation exercises because in the eye is a highlight of light, which is a giveaway signal of a flash gun being used, which is all paparazzi use them. You look at any news picture and you'll see a highlight of light in the eye, indicating a flash gun. They didn't have flash guns on the moon. Moving on to Apollo 12, and the images have been seriously manipulated. This is only possible, of course, since the advent of the internet, where pictures can be manipulated using very basic software. Again, there's another sequence of 8 photographs from Apollo 12, 2 of the iconic images and 6 boring stuff. Looking at some of the iconic images, what on earth is going on in the background? This looks like they're floodlights on a background. And what's all the stuff on the left? Are they girders from all the warehouses they were using? Looking at it in detail, you see that his hand is really not close enough to the pistol grip on the camera to use it effectively. I only took one picture. This is the other image. And what on earth is going on in his visor? I know, it's the locals trotting up to see what on earth is going on. I don't know what it is. It could be reflections off the visor, but they only had 3 screens, so there's 6 of them there. Could they be UFOs trotting by? I don't know. And then we're looking again in detail at this. There are 2 of these crosshairs, reticules they're called, which is in every lunar photograph. But this is a double exposure because they're far too close together. And then we start looking at some weird old shadow angles. Photographer, sun behind him on the left. The Surveyor 3 craft, remember that was landed 3 years earlier. And the shadow is going a completely different direction, which is a bit weird. It shouldn't happen, so it's an unexplained detail. And here we have Apollo 14 with the lunar lander. This is what they look like. Top half is where the astronauts were. Bottom half is where the fuel is. And you flip it over, add a few little bits, and you've got a golf shot on the moon. Aha! Alan Shepard took his golf club up there and whacked the ball. Of course you can see a golf ball flying across horizontally. No, you can't. And what are they both doing on the moon at the same time? And who took this picture? Because it is a photograph, it's not a video image. There's the video image. It's a manipulated photograph which was on display at about that size at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida until we posted the report of this fake photograph and they decided to take it down. Oh dear. Upsetting NASA yet again. Here's Apollo 15 with the landing site. And this is what it looked like when they landed. They had this mountain in the background. But that mountain is supposed to be 13,000 foot high. Whoops. This is what a mountain 13,000 foot, or in this case 10,000 foot above the position you're taking the photograph, would look like. That's Everest from base camp. Base camp's 19,000 feet, Everest 29,000 feet, so it's 2 miles vertically above where you are today. Does that look like previous photograph where you've got almost no detail at all? This is very traditional in Apollo photographs. And look, just behind the astronaut there is a distinctive division. It's as if it is a background, a film background, or a projection background. Anyway, another anomaly, and I like this one. These are consecutive photographs. I've double-checked that they are consecutive photographs. Apollo 15, Dave Scott and Jim Irwin, one photographed the other, but they didn't have enough cameras. They only had the one. Weird. Apollo 16, where on earth do you put this rover? They took this little car to the moon. And it's always debatable where it is. Now we're going to 17 because they landed more or less in the middle of this valley here. It's about 5 miles across. It's quite a big area. But just before we get onto the ground, if there are any astronomers here, I want them to answer this question, because no astronomer I've ever asked it of can do it. Apollo 11 here, on the right, shows the terminator, which is the bit between light and dark. We get it on Earth here, it's called dusk. But on the moon it's called the terminator because it just divides light and dark. It's very distinct. There's no atmosphere on the moon, so it's sharp, edged images. On Apollo 17, they landed about the same time, quite early in the morning, relatively. A moon day is 28 days, so it's 14 days of sunlight and 14 days of darkness. You can see the shadow angle in both pictures is pretty well the same. Where is the terminator on the picture on the left? It doesn't appear to be there. It's an unexplained detail. Here we have the famous picture of the flag and the Earth and the astronaut, that's Harrison Schmitt on Apollo 17. You try lining up a person, a flag, and the moon in one picture. once. No practice, no second shot, get the exposure right, get everything lined up correctly. Yes, you can do it very easily on a double exposure, which is what's happened here. Okay, Apollo 17 on the ground. This is the Taras-Littrow Valley. And it's really just to have a look at, when you manipulate the photograph, what do you get? Something pretty weird going on in the background. I don't know if that's a screen. I don't think it's a giant glass image, which some people claim they have identified on the moon. But let's have a look at something a little bit more realistic. This is a similar photograph. In that photograph is the lunar lander. Can you see it? Thought not. So let's find it. On the right-hand side, it's there. But you can't see it even very clearly here. So let's enlarge the picture a little bit more, and this is what you get. There is the lunar lander. It's tiny in that landscape. And yet, here, what's going on? The middle picture, the big one, is the one we just looked at. But there are two other pictures showing the lunar lander, and this A is this mark on the landscape, as is B, D, and E. So you can identify that they're a picture taken from the same viewpoint. But just to show that the lunar lander bounces around all over the place, well, technically it wasn't moved once it landed. So what's it do? It's on the right-hand side in the top picture, and seriously large in the bottom picture, but it's the same background. B, D, and E are the same. Please explain, representative of NASA. I'd love to know the answer. And where's it gone here? Oh dear, it keeps disappearing. Top photograph shows the LEM, Lunar Excursion Module. I refer to it as the LEM, Lunar Module, with the mountain in the distance with the bottom photograph. Also show the Lunar Excursion Module in the same relative location. Yes, of course it should. If the bottom photograph is taken from a greater distance, shouldn't the Lunar Excursion Module appear in it? Of course it should. Where's it gone? Come on, NASA, front up to it. Okay, Lunar Rover. Isn't it wonderful? They took a car with them, which could do about the same distance, 35 kilometers, on battery power in 1969 as a modern electrical car can today. Technology doesn't do that. It moves forward. This is either this is a radio-controlled model, which is more likely, but it hasn't been moved. You've got the footprints there, quite visible, but no tracks. No tracks at all. How did they manage to get could have been placed there, could have been, I don't know. Again, unexplained detail. Ridiculous nonsense. Okay, lifting off, Apollo 17, lifting off. Top left-hand picture, firing of the ascent engine with the two astronauts inside it. Top right, a little further up. Where's the flame? Oh, it's a vacuum, I hear you say. There's no oxygen, so it won't appear. Yes, it does. On the bottom left picture, the shuttle, the space shuttle, when it fires its maneuvering engines, you can see a flame. Without getting into the detail of what the fuel is, the Apollo craft and the shuttle use the same fuel. So when you fire a rocket, you have an exhaust. Where did it go? If you look at the top of the lunar descent, there's nowhere for this really quite powerful rocket, 10,000 pound of thrust rocket, there's nowhere for the exhaust to go, so it's going to fry the astronauts. But they weren't fried. They all